bird population. And just a second, I gotta click on this thing. And I think there are about 50 research stations, and it's in about 20 countries. And we decided that we wanted to support the projects in Belize. And our society's made 2 grants to aid in this work. And Belize is a small country, but it has a really large environmental commitment. And just this year, a group of US foundations went together and made a commitment of $76 million to protect 236,000 acres in Belize, the Belize Mayan forest. So we think it's a really interesting place, and a place that is doing a lot to research and protect the birds that we value here in Saint Paul as well as in Belize. Abidas Ash is a bird biologist. She has a BA from the University of Belize, and she runs the bird monitoring stations in Belize. And so we asked her to talk about her project, and so without any further ado, she's here and she'll talk about bird monitoring in Belize. Abidas?
Thank you, Don. Hello, everyone. As Don mentioned, my name is Abidas, and I work for the University of Belize Environmental Research Institute. And I'm going to be presenting about our work, basically, at the Institute, and specifically on birds. It's focused mostly on banding, because that's my main focus, but we're now looking at other point count strategies and stuff that we're doing. We work with several partners in terms of bird conservation and everything, but we have our focus mostly right now on the bird banding and using the MoSI protocol. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay, can everyone see it properly?
Yeah, we're good.
Yes, it's very good.
Okay. Okay, just stop me along the way if you have any questions, or we can leave it till at the end. So to start off with, just a little bit of background in terms of how I got into this, and what exactly I've been doing, basically. As Don mentioned, I have a bachelor's degree in natural resource management from the University of Belize. I started the bird banding as part of an internship with Free, which is a field station in the southern part of the country. So they have been the one doing most of the banding before. So in Belize, not everyone knew about bird banding and that sort of stuff. And that was the only station that was actually doing any type of bird banding. So while doing my undergrad, that's when I actually got the opportunity to do the internship for 8 months there. And that's where I got the skills and started to develop the interest in it. After finish my undergrad, I started working at another field station that is owned by Canadians, and they started this field station and they were looking to start off their bird project as well. So I worked about 2.5 years with them. Then I was hired by University of Belize Environmental Research Institute as their bird biologist, and I've been working there for the past 6 years. So I'm involved pretty much in all of the bird related projects. So it either is working with partners for the MoSI, or on contracts, or just consultations and that sort of stuff. I'm on different committees for the country. I'm part of the Belize birding network. I'm part of the actually the work with the Belize Forest Department in regulating different things that they need to in terms of birds, like if they're looking at importation, exportation of bird species, developing any type of draft strategies or whatever that they need to present. I'm part of the committee to be able to guide based on research, basically. I've trained about 40 plus interns and students over the years. Those range from both local to international students, field technicians, tour guides, rangers. I'm a certified North American bird banding council bander and trainer. So I recently got my trainer certification, and I just took it just so that I'm able to be able to see if I'm actually doing well, and I could continue doing the trainings to be able to train other Belizeans. So just a little bit about the MoSI program in Belize. So as I mentioned, Be Free has been the one pretty much doing most of the banding. They've done banding for 10 years. And they've operated 4 stations, and they operate within their property and within the Bladen Nature Reserve. So after this, I have a map so I can show you guys where exactly that is located. So in 2015, Be Free established a half of a MoSI station at Black Rock Lodge. And that sort of sparked their interest, because so Black Rock Lodge is a private property. They do mostly with tourism, but they're also focused in conservation as well. And their main thing is birds. So I'm not sure, I think everyone pretty much have eBird, but if you look at eBird, Black Rock is pretty much a hotspot, a really good hotspot for birding. In 2016, that's when the collaboration started with my organization, UBERI, Black Rock Lodge, and the Belize Audubon Society. And with this collaboration, we established a station at Coxcomb Basin Wildlife Sanctuary, which is co-managed by the Belize Audubon Society. And we expanded the MoSI station at Black Rock. And pretty much each year since 2016, new partners are joining us. So at the moment, we have Runaway Creek Forest Reserve, Runaway Creek Nature Reserve, Freshwater Creek Forest Reserve, and recently we added the Toledo Institute for Development and Environment in the southern part. So they just recently started a station down there as well. And here is the map in terms of where our stations are located. So the university is here in the central part of the country. So in Belmopan City, that's where we're located. And we have, these are our current stations that are operation. So the station that I was talking about, Be Free, is located in this part here. So somewhere in here, so these 2 blocks of these 2 blocks of protected areas actually surrounds Be Free. So this is the Bladen Nature Reserve, and they are the one, and that's where they had a station, and pretty much the Be Free has its property between those 2 protected areas. Here in the south, this is where I said this is the new station that's starting. This is it's within a private protected land, so they have their own. They purchased some areas and stuff like that to protect and stuff like that. So it's not property of the government, or like the property of government of Belize, but it's the property of Tide instead. And then here is Coxcomb Basin Wildlife Sanctuary. And this is where we have our other station. And this is co-managed by the Belize Audubon Society. Then we have Black Rock Lodge. And Black Rock Lodge actually is surrounded by 2 protected areas, Eligio Panti and the Vaca Forest Reserve. we have already completed the 5 years at Blackrock, and they decided to halt in the monitoring. So, because for this monitoring here, for monitoring of overwintering survival of migrant birds, you need a minimum of 5 years. So they have committed pretty much 6 years including the year that they just did half of a MoSI. So there is enough data to be able to analyze and stuff like that. They're still doing bird conservation, but focusing mostly on raptors and that sort of stuff. Then we have Runaway Creek Nature Reserve. So Dan had mentioned that they have been supporting our work here in Belize for the past 2 years, pretty much. So last year, when they gave us a grant, this is where we did the community outreach and I helped out with operating this specific station. So this is the station. And then we have the one up in the north, the Freshwater Creek Forest Reserve. So those are our stations that we have in Belize. So UBERI provides the bander. So this is how the networks function. We collect the data, we compile the data, we write up a final report. In addition, we provide trainings as part of our ongoing capacity building within the program. Each partner provides their staff to assist with the operation of the station and provides lodging, food, and transportation for the bander. In previous years, we've sought out assistance internationally for banders, but since COVID has started, we pretty much have been doing it on our own. We started off with using outside help because the amount of people that actually knew how to do bird banding was very small. And over the years, through our trainings, we've been able to build that capacity and build pretty much everyone's skills to be able to assist within the program. So the Institute of Bird Populations provide us with the USGS bands for migrants and the permit, and the Belize Forest Department provides us with the permit to be able to conduct the monitoring in Belize. Donors provide us with finance and equipment to be able to conduct the monitoring each season. And we're so grateful for all that support. And this includes the Saint Paul Audubon Society, friends, even the Institute of Bird Populations. We're always looking for equipment and help and that sort of stuff. And we're always grateful for all the support that everyone has been giving us. So someone asked about, just before I move on, someone asked about repeat captures. I have a slide where I'm gonna talk a bit more about the data and stuff like that. So we'll get into, so you could see a table that I created for you to be able to see that we do get birds that come back to the same area. Sorry. Oops. Okay, so just to give you some faces in terms of people that are involved in the program. So from UBRI, it's me, I'm the lead bander. The people that were involved at Blackrock were 2 tour guides, and they learned how to extract birds, process birds, and also assisted at the different other stations as well. At the Belize Audubon Society, we have Celestino Peck and Emmanuel Saki. At the Foundation for Wildlife Conservation, we have, it's a team of 5. that manages the Runaway Creek Nature Reserve. And pretty much everyone knows how to do bird banding. They've been doing it for a long time, especially the guys on the right. They've been working with the Birds Without Borders. So the Foundation for Wildlife Conservation was formerly known as Birds Without Borders. And they had been doing banding for probably about 20 years or more. They had several stations as well. It wasn't really looking at the MoSI. They pretty much were just doing monitoring to be able to see what was happening. But that data actually was like collecting it for MoSI because they were doing it during the winter. They collected a bit more different data, but pretty much all the data, most of it was similar to what MoSI actually collects. So their data was actually used to be able to contribute to different analysis that IBP does. And then the Corozal Sustainable Future Initiative. So this is the co-managers of the Freshwater Creek Forest Reserve. They have 4 new personnel that they just got trained in October of last year, and they're the one actually helping me operate that station there. And then we have Tide in the south, and they're a team of 4 people as well, and they are the one that do their banding. So Liberato Pop, the guy on the right, he was working with Be Free. We pretty much got trained together, and he, since Be Free stopped operating their stations, he joined the Tide organization, and he has been the one leading the bird banding at that location there. So to talk a little bit about the data highlights, so what have we been getting? Just a little bit of summary in terms of birds that how many birds we've caught, and the total species so far over the number of years that the stations have been operated. So remember, Black Rock has been operated for 5 years as a full MoSI station. Coxcomb is 4 years. This is its 5th year. The Freshwater Creek Forest Reserve has been in operation for 4 years. 3 years, sorry, this is its 4th year. Runaway Creek is 2 years. This is its 3rd year. And Tide, they operated as a trial season last year. This is your 1st year as a full MoSI station. And as you can see, just looking at total new birds and the total species, Black Rock and Coxcomb have been the stations with the high number of captures, even in species diversity. And that's something that we've been seeing over the years. And it's just because it's much more diverse. So Coxcomb is pretty much broadleaf forest, but the area that we have the nets and the station are of a mixture of broadleaf, open area, forest edge. So we do get, plenty of species diversity that way. Black Rock is on along the Macal River, so it has riparian forest, and it goes more into the broadleaf forest. And then they have like an agriculture area nearby as well. So it has all that forest edge and stuff like that. So that pretty much is what we have for those 2 stations. And I think that is what is causing for us to have those high numbers. Freshwater Creek is, I'm hoping that it continues after the 5 years, so we could see changes eventually, because it's an interesting place in terms of the area itself. Before it became a protected area, was people were, or before anyone actually was co-managing it, it was actually encroached by agriculture, farmers that were doing agriculture and stuff like that. So the southern part of it, the southeast part of it, basically, is where we have the station, and a lot of the area there was heavily logged. There was cane plantations that was done, pineapple plantations. So a lot of those areas are just coming back again. So since CSFI has taken over to manage that area, they have let it grow. They've also done some reforestation using mahogany. So where our station is, and where some of our nets, it goes into that reforestation area, and some of them are from the old successional forest that was heavily logged. So yes, the capture rate is very low, but in a couple of years, with all the regeneration and everything, we might be able to see higher captures, even a species diversity. And it's interesting that we actually also get the Yucatan endemics. So a lot of the species that are just specifically for the northern part of the country, we catch them, so we'll be able to study them and that sort of stuff. While the other areas, they're farther from the north, so we don't get those species. And then Runaway Creek, it's been, I'm not really sure, maybe it's just the site itself, but we thought that it would have been like really good for captures, but it seems that we haven't gotten to that as yet. We thought that we would have been able to get higher captures, since it's along a karst hill. So there's a lot of broadleaf around it. There is a seasonal wetland near it as well. But just for some reason, our capture rate is not as high. But it's just to show you that each station is unique in its way, and we also get very unique species at the stations as well. So we might not be getting high diversity of species, but the species we get are really good for us to be able to monitor, because the other stations are not giving us that. So just to share a little bit about our data, this is just for you guys to see how. So this is just looking at BlackRock's data, since we have enough data of it. This was actually in the report for last year's report that I had sent out. I'm not sure if everyone looked at it, but just as a recap, this is pretty much some of the species, and this table is just to highlight some of the species that has been visiting the same area year after year, and pretty much some of the same nets or net areas year after year. And it shows us that these species, the area that we're monitoring, is very useful for the different species that we're capturing. And this is just for Black Rock. With this 5th year for cockscomb, we'll be able to do the same as well, and so forth for the other stations as well. So that's what we've been getting so far in terms of our data and looking at it. Okay. So the amount of species count in a year, pretty much, I mean, sorry, in a season, we can, for the larger stations, so for those stations that give us larger numbers, for example, like Black Rock and Coxcomb, they were giving us about 40 to 50 species or so. So the table that I showed earlier is just a summary of the total species over the entire seasons that we did. So it's not per season or so. Okay, I'm trying to go back. Yeah. So it's just a total species. So over the 6 years that we operated for, I'm sorry, over the 5 years that we operated at Black Rock, we got like 1,245 new birds that we were able to band. And we got a total of 116 species. This includes those species that we're not able to ban, just a few, just the hummingbirds pretty much, that we won't be able, we don't do any banding, sorry, we don't ban them. But the 1,245 includes both migrants and residents. Okay, so just some other interesting finds in terms of what we've been seeing or what we've been collecting so far. So we've been able, over the years, we've been able to see not only what we would say site fidelity, whereas species come back to the same area year after year where you banded it. We've also been able to see some type of seasonal migration, or that's or just birds passing through because they utilize that specific area. So a couple of examples. In 2017, an ovenbird was banded at Black Rock and recaptured at Coxcomb 14 days later. So I'll just quickly go back to the map just so you could see that you can visualize the area in terms of where it is. So this is Black Rock and this is Coxcomb. The area between them are all protected areas. This is where Be Free is, like right in between here. So all of the areas between those stations are protected areas. So this ovenbird was banded at Black Rock, and then 14 days later, because we banded here, we did banding here, and then we took a week off, I believe, or so, and then we came to Coxcomb, and then within that time, the time that we were at Coxcomb, we recaptured this individual. And later on, going through the data, that's when we realized that the bird that we captured here at Coxcomb was not banded at Coxcomb, it was actually banded at Black Rock. So that was really interesting because that bird didn't stay at Black Rock. It was a young bird at the time, so it was moving around to see where it could actually settle in. And we never really recaptured it at Coxcomb, so we don't know if it stayed there or where it went. Another example, in 2017, Kentucky warbler was caught twice in January and November. So remember, the MoSI season is from November to March. So this is 2 different seasons that it was caught in the same year at Coxcomb, and it was initially banded near Runaway Creek in April 2016. So this bird was probably already at Coxcomb, and it was heading up north in April. And since it has to go north where Runaway Creek is, they were doing some banding in April around that area, and they caught this Kentucky warbler. They banded it in April, and then it came back in October of in October of 2016. Probably spent the winter in November, December, January of 2017. That's when we caught it. So it did spend the winter in Coxcomb. Then it flew back again up to North America in April or so. And then we caught it, this same individual, we caught it back again in November of that second season there. So just because we haven't recaptured it again doesn't mean that the bird is not there anymore. It could be that it's still there, but we haven't had any record of it as yet. In 2017, a color-banded wood thrush was recaptured at Black Rock. It was initially banded at Coxcomb in 2015 by a researcher that was doing his PhD. And we caught it at Black Rock. So this researcher was doing 3 years of research at Coxcomb, and he was working mostly with wood thrush. So he was color banding them and everything. That was in 2015, he ended his research. And then in 2017, while we were doing banding, we caught the wood thrush. In 2018, gray catbird was recaptured at Black Rock as well. It was initially banded in 2014, at Be Free. So while they were still doing some bird banding work at Be Free in 2014, they banded the gray catbird. And then a couple of years later in 2018, we caught that same gray catbird, but at Black Rock. So it's to show you that these birds don't always stay in one area. They use the area that's there, and especially between these stations, Black Rock, Coxcomb, Be Free, there is a vast amount of protected areas. And it's to show us that these birds are actually using that area, and it's very important. It's a very important flyway for them to be able to move around in the area and find, especially young birds, find a specific area that they want to stay in and spend the winter. And there is other, we haven't really recaptured them, but there's other observational, especially when we're at the station, we'll be able to see that a specific individual comes back to that specific area. A lot of times while we're not busy with processing birds and going out on net runs, we're bird watching, we're seeing birds, so we get to learn and we get to know these birds. Right at Coxcomb, I could tell you there's probably about 5 individuals that I know. Those are the same individuals that come back year after year in that same location. And it's interesting because we can know that one year if we don't see that individual, we could probably say, well, something happened to it, or, but seeing them every year, each wintering season, it's exciting because we know, oh, this individual made it all the way to North America, made it back again just to come and spend the winter down here. So that's really interesting. Okay, just to show you some pictures of some birds that we catch. They're not, it's not all of them, but these are pretty much some of the common ones that we catch. We get a lot of wood thrushes, a lot of catbirds, a few of the warbler species, vireos, yellow-bellied flycatchers, indigo buntings, and some of our resident birds. We have spot-breasted wren, royal flycatcher, orange-billed sparrow, smoky brown woodpecker, stub-tailed spadebill, blue bunting, red-capped manakin. So moving forward, just to share a little bit about our thoughts in terms of moving forward. So we're hoping next season that Coxcomb and Runaway Creek become independent, since they have all their staff trained. Their staff are able to operate their stations independently. We want to get more Belizeans involved and trained to be able to assist at the stations. So sometimes there are times when we lack the personnel. So sometimes we don't have enough personnel to be able to operate the station. So it's good to train more people. There is also a lot of staff turnover in some organizations. So it's just a cycle to repeat over and over, the training, get more publications out, and get enough equipment for each station so that they're able to operate. So someone had asked the question, are you seeing any effects of climate change in these conservation areas? So there is, we've seen changes in weather over the years, but per se that it affects the different areas that we can actually see, it's very minimal. We haven't really seen really drastic change in these areas. We've seen small little things, like for example, at Black Rock, we had, it was in 2019, sorry, not in 2019, in 2020, yes, 2019 to 2020, the weather was really bad. We had a lot of rains, we had a lot of flooding. It affected the whole, a lot of our lower nets that are closer to the river. And year after year, we get to see that we either have longer months of rain or shorter months, and which means that we have longer months of hot weather. I believe in early in 2019, it was really, really hot. We had a lot of fires in a lot of areas, but it didn't really affect us because we weren't doing banding around that time. So that's more for within the dry season. But most of our protected areas, they were not really affected. So the only places that could have been affected were like savanna areas, but within these protected areas, there are prescribed burning that they do so fires don't just go wild like that and affect all the areas. So we haven't really been seeing a lot of change in terms of that. So another person asked, do you know whether any of the birds you've banded have been captured in the US during the summer season? To be honest, not while we're doing our MoSI, so not from our MoSI work, but the guys from Runaway Creek have been doing other banding research and projects with other researchers. So they have a lot of North American colleagues, and they come down and do a lot of research at Runaway Creek. And I believe that they had one case of that they banded a bird at Runaway Creek and it got caught somewhere in North America. But I don't recall the details per se. But on our end, in terms of this MoSI program, we haven't really had any of that. But we never know. Maybe it just hasn't been reported, or we we've never been told about it. But it would be something good to check and see with IBP if they get any such details, so be able to see, so we'll be able to get notified as well about that and see if that would be interesting. Have you caught any birds that were already banded outside of Belize? No, we have not caught any birds that were banded outside. We've always only caught the birds that were banded in other areas near the area that we're studying, but not outside, like for say in Canada or in the US, that would, if birds were banded there and we caught in Belize. No, we've never had that. But fingers crossed, someday. Okay, so that's a bit about the actual field work and looking at the research component. We also do trainings and outreach education. This is just to highlight some of our trainings that we've done. So, you know, I've trained about 30 Belizeans. These include students, field technicians, rangers, tour guides, about 20 plus international students that come down for internships, and I've trained them as well in bird banding. We've trained, so 7 of the Belizeans who are currently assisting us are NABC certified assistant banders. So we're trying to push our Belizeans to be able to get this type of certification. It's just a method of quality control for us to be able to ensure that the data that is being collected is of good standards. I've probably conducted about 10 or more bird banding demonstrations to students, community members. So the different stations, we try to encourage the buffer communities to visit the stations. This is, a lot of these demonstrations happened before COVID. So we invited schools, we invited community members who have birding clubs to come and visit and learn more about birds. I've even did some demonstration to the University of Belize students as well. I also assist in one of their courses where I teach about bird conservation in general. I've also assisted with 2 of the NABC certification sessions. So they usually do this. The NABC usually hosts your workshop on certification session in Belize at the Trees Field Station. And since I'm a certified trainer, I'm now able to assist with the certification sessions. Unfortunately, because of they don't want any type of biasness in the certification process, I'm not able to actually certify the Belizean that the Belizean folks that I train, but the other trainers are the ones that actually do that instead. So that's why I'm trying to get a lot of these other assistants to be able to learn how to do trainings and how to conduct trainings, so that they're the ones that are able to actually do the trainings, you know. Okay, so someone asked, equipment, pretty much, I think the most thing that gets used a lot is pretty much in mist nets. Where a lot of these mist nets, we've had them for 6 years or so. And now some of them are finally they've served their time. So it's some of them needs to get changed. So we've been collecting a few over the couple year and a half. But you know, if we want to have a full set for each station, it's 4 stations there, and you know, that's a lot of mist nets, and we set up 16 mist nets for each station. So, but yeah, those are pretty much mist nets is the one that is always something that's always good to have. Okay, this is just some pictures to show some of the individuals and students that we have trained over the years. So these pictures are from the training that we just recently did in October, and this is the training that the grant that we got from Saint Paul's Audubon Society. So I did 3 different sessions for different folks. So the first session for the people on the left, the upper left, we have all of these individuals are individuals that I have seen over the years. They have the capacity to be able to lead their own stations and just need a bit more experience in terms of managing it, being able to lead the actual banding, get some more skills in aging and sexing of birds, both migrants and residents, just need a little bit more help. So that's why I divided the sessions in 3 separate groups, because all of these individuals have different levels. So we have individuals from Belize Audubon Society, Tide, Runaway Creek. Here, we did the training at the Trees Field Station. So the owner of Trees, Matthew, he's a certified trainer as well. So he was able to assist me. The Biodiversity Research Institute is doing a project on mercury in birds of Belize. So they sent a representative to be able to, he came down to do some research as well, to collect some data and stuff like that. But he also, one of his objectives was to reach out to the different MoSI operators and show them about his work and try to see if we could do some type of collaboration. So I invited him because I see the opportunity was best for it to be done to show the individuals that will be leading the field effort eventually. So they're the one that needs to know how to collect that data. And we set up a collaboration with the biodiversity research. So we're currently collecting feather samples for the birds that we're capturing as part of your project on mercury. The second session, so what I did was I had all of these I would say trainers do one of the different sessions. So as part of your capacity building, it's just for me to be able to see if they'll be able to build that confidence and also build that skill to conduct trainings. So the other 2 sessions, so the second session was pretty much for an intermediary level. So they have some skills already. They just need to build a little bit more skills on extraction and so forth. And then the last session was for people that were new to bird banding. So they've never done bird banding before. They want to learn about it. and that's where we trained a lot of the guys from Freshwater Creek Forest Reserve, since they didn't have any experience with bird banding, and we needed a team up there to be able to help me out. So a lot of the guys from there that attended the session were from CSFI. Then we had a few other from Belize Audubon, Tide, even Trees is trying to build their personnel as well. So, so last year, I think it was, I don't remember when I think the grant was actually approved in 2019, but we couldn't really do much because of the COVID, and there was a lot of COVID regulations in place in Belize, and so we pretty much couldn't have any face-to-face or interaction with other people. So this specific activity always got pushed back until we had to do it early in 2020. And that was from the first grant that we got from you guys. And it was to do an outreach activity our activities with 2 buffer communities around the Runaway Creek Nature Reserve. So we did it for the community of La Democracia and Mahogany Heights. And we did it for about 18 students, I believe. We did the bird banding demonstration. We took them to the cave system, talked about the different programs, the research that the Foundation for Wildlife Conservation do, and they had a day to visit the Belize Zoo to see other birds and mammals, other species that we do have in Belize. So it was a really good session with the kids then. They really enjoyed it. A lot of them have never really gone to these areas. Some of them, even at the zoo, they've never seen certain mammals and that sort of stuff. So it was really good for them to be able to get that exposure. Okay, just a little bit about other conservation programs that are going on within our partners. So Tide also participate in the monitoring of yellow-headed parrots. The Belize Audubon Society also monitors nesting pair of black and white hawk eagles at Coxcomb Basin. The Black Rock is now focusing on the monitoring of orange-breasted falcon and the black and white hawk eagle. The Foundation for Wildlife Conservation monitors a nesting pair of jabiru at the Runaway Creek Nature Reserve. Okay, that's the end of my presentation. I believe I saw some stuff on the chat. Let's see. My favorite bird, Belizean bird. It's hard to tell you. There's just so many unique and beautiful birds. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very, very much.
Does anybody have any final questions?
I have a question. This is Jean. Who is using the data and the findings from this data collection? And what sorts of research questions are they trying to answer? And have there been any surprising findings?
So we submitted data so we submit the data on the migrants to the Institute of Bird Populations. And they're pretty much the ones that manage the MoSI program. And all of our resident data, we keep it in country. Since it's pretty new for us, and we haven't been able to get enough data to be able to contribute to the analysis of the data. But I know IBP, what they do is they analyze your data using occupancy to create occupancy models using MoSI data, and they usually do it for all the MoSI stations. There's different research that come about, like currently there is one about looking at longevity of birds within the MoSI stations. And this is, I'm thinking of actually joining in as well and contributing, because we have this specific individual just looking at Black Rock, who we've been recapturing for 4 years consecutively. So that can tell a little bit, a lot about in terms of, you know, how long this bird has been living. Maybe if we could look at specific, what exactly was going on in those years, how it might have affected it. But it's just that we stopped at 5 years. If we would have continued, maybe we would be able to recapture this specific individual and tell more in terms of how long it would actually live. And there's a lot of other stuff that we could actually look at. And it could be from site fidelity. It could be looking at how even those interesting finds, like what happened to the bird, like, you know, would we be able to recapture this Kentucky warbler in years to come if we continue doing banding at Coxcomb? So that's why we're encouraging partners to actually not only stop at 5 years, but continue on, because it will be really interesting and very good for them, because that's a way to be able to show the government, okay, this is why we need to keep Coxcomb a protected area. This is why we need more funding in terms of protecting Coxcomb as a reserve itself.
Thank you.
No
Any
problem.
other questions?
There'll be a charter flight leaving at midnight.
Yeah.
That was exceptional.
Well, thank you very much, Abidas. I thought it was a really good presentation. And it was also really important to learn about what you're doing. We're really happy that we at Saint Paul Audubon Society are able to contribute to your efforts, and that you're learning what happens to our birds in the winter, or to your birds that come up here. We'll try to keep track of them for you too.
Yes. Yes, it's a good connection. You know, you guys are helping us out on this end here, and you know, we're trying to do our best to make sure that the birds are protected.
All right, thank you. All right, yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
I think we're good.
Okay, well, thank you very much again. And pretty soon you'll see a whole bunch of us down visiting in Belize, I think.
That's right. That's right.
And thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks for what
Thank
you
you.
do.
No problem.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And this will be on YouTube tomorrow if anybody's got somebody that you think should take a look at it. Somebody with a closet full of misfits. All right. Well, you had 40 people show. That's impressive. So thank you. All right, we're going to turn off the record.